Hi everyone, I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much for joining me. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done a report about Yellowstone. I do keep an eye on it. Here we got the Firehole River, and you can see we got steaming, lots of snow. The park is evidently open for traffic. And this morning I was watching and caught the end of Old Faithful going off. So I'm going to show you that. It's real short. Yeah, the sun's just rising, or came up a little while ago there at Yellowstone. Yeah, it was a nice eruption there at Old Faithful. It occurred at about 7 a.m. Central Daylight Time, about an hour ago as I'm making this video. And they're looking there at the back basin. This area down here at the bottom in the front, they used to have a power plant that ran off of steam many years ago, and it's been torn down and cleaned up. But I wanted to talk about this recent article that's being pushed across the web about how Yellowstone's got a cap that's holding the eruptions from happening there at Yellowstone, which is all BS. You know, the gases they're saying is coming up, releasing the pressure. Well, the gases are coming up because the top part of the caldera is rhyolite, the most volatile type of magma that you can possibly have, and has lots of gases. So the indication that the gases are coming up does mean that the magma is right behind it, and the gases are being released from that rhyolite. And what it does as the cracks open up, they're being forced open by the gases coming up. Yeah, where it's making it easier for the magma to come into the system, rise up. Magma is very buoyant. It wants to naturally rise. I downloaded 4 different monitors for Yellowstone. This here is the Moose Creek, Idaho, which is close to the Snake River Plateau, and I've talked about this area, how the magma's coming up in the system and moving westward along the Snake River Plateau. You know, they talk about the last major eruption, but they don't talk about the smaller eruptions that have happened since then, and there's been at least 40 of the smaller eruptions. One of the larger eruptions was, let me see here, let me show you, the Pitchstone Plateau. Here we got Yellowstone Lake, and this is Pitchstone Plateau. They got magma there, or lava, about a mile thick, and it covers an area similar to Washington, D.C. Here we have a map of rhyolite eruptions, and I've talked about the unzipping of Yellowstone during its last major eruption. It started up over here by the Medicine Lake area, and yeah, we had different eruptions until it got down here by Heart Lake. This is Heart Lake. When it did the unzipping and it got down here by Heart Lake, both resurgent domes, because Yellowstone has 2 resurgent domes, collapsed at the same time. And then we got some more rhyolite eruptions up over here. There's an area through here that they didn't even know there had been smaller eruptions until they started doing surveying and building roads going up to Gardner. Here, I put the roads in so you could see it. Okay. Yeah, but there's been smaller eruptions. They only recently found, I don't know, 5 to 10 years ago, maybe. So I'm going to nitpick this article, or several articles. You can see we got on Yahoo. Scientists say something is cooking the Yellowstone volcano 3 days ago. Yellowstone makes earthquakes with 53,000-pound vibrator to study the volcano. Inside its fiery heart, They map the volatile rich cap. Right there. There's the one I want to talk about. The cap. Yeah, the top on it. This was actually done from a study back in 2022. Yellowstone's going to erupt? Question. New research reveals that the volcano is venting. That was 2 weeks ago. Scientists found the lid keeping the Yellowstone supervolcano from erupting. Yeah, right. Breathing magma cap inside Yellowstone supervolcano keeps a lid on potential eruption, study suggests. Yellowstone hasn't had a major eruption for hundreds of thousands of years, but it's still very much an active system. The newly discovered cap, which is 2.6 miles or 3.8 kilometers below the surface, acts like a lid, according to a recent statement. Not only does this lid trap significant amounts of heat and pressure inside, but it also appears to be porous enough to steadily release some of that pressure so the whole system doesn't blow. What a bunch of hogwash. This is an article from 2022. The magma reservoir beneath Yellowstone's volcano consists of two chambers, a shallow reserve near the surface, and the chamber, the magma chamber, is around 55 miles long and about 25 miles wide, and a deeper chamber that is about 4.5 times larger, while the deeper reservoir contains about 2% melt, the deep one. The upper chamber, the shallow chamber, where all these gases are coming from, contains far more wet melt. The study published in the Science in December 22, but portions of that melt are between 16 and 20%. Yeah, they really push the baloney. Finding a hidden magma cap. This article is so full of lies and misinformation. Here it says the magma chamber beneath Yellowstone is composed primarily of rhyolite magma. That is the worst type of magma you can possibly have because there is so much gas in it. A high silica, viscous type of molten that dominates the upper crust reservoir, extending from about 3 to 10 miles deep. This chamber is vast, approximately 55 kilometers long and 24 kilometers wide, but mostly solid, with only about 5 to 15% of its volume consisting of molten melt mixed with solid crystals and gases. That is a bold-faced lie. The study in 2022 said it was between 16 and 20%. Now, in the past, they've talked about how much of the ground, the pockets of melt it needs to have before an eruption. Originally, they said somewhere between 30, 33, and 50%. So it's still below that threshold for an imminent eruption. How fast the magma comes up is actually the danger of an eruption. Any volcano can erupt within 10 minutes. Gases come up because of the magma, which is rising. Here it says if gases are trapped, pressure builds until the magma fragments violently. If gases escape gradually through porous rock, well, that gas is fracturing the rock, making the conduit for the magma that is where the gas is coming from easier to rise up. Repeated non-explosive fragmentations. Eruptions tend to be gentler lava flows. Here we have a paper from USGS, and it talks about different volcanoes. This one goes into Kilauea there in Hawaii. Lava flows rarely kill people because they move slowly enough for people to get out of the way. They have basalt there, mostly basalt, no rhyolite. If magma is thick and sticky, gases cannot escape easily. Pressure builds up until the gas escapes violently and explodes. A good example is the eruption of Washington's Mount St. Helens. In this type of an eruption, the magma blasts into the air, breaking apart into pieces called tephra. Tephra can range from sizes of tiny particles of ash to house-sized boulders. So them telling you that the gas slowly coming up is a good thing because it's releasing pressure. Just like they talk about the hydrothermal eruptions there at Yellowstone, the hot poles are releasing pressure. No, it's an indication that magma is rising, and who knows when, but yeah, it just makes me so mad. What they're not telling you is that the mantle rock is now in a zone of lower pressure as it is closer to the surface of the planet. This lower pressure causes a decompression melt that creates pockets of magma. This magma is buoyant and begins to rise. Once magma reaches the brittle outer zone of the crust, maybe about 7 miles down or higher, gases begin to form at the top of the magma body. The gases start to pry apart faults as well as joints, which are cracks in the crust. These cracks can be microscopic. Through the pressure of gas, water, and carbon dioxide coming out of the solution from the magma, these volatile gases pry open the cracks. The magma then follows. This forms a network of dikes and sills, and the magma follows the path of least resistance. Oh yeah, but we got this cap. It must be made of iron on top, holding it all down. And we know that because gases are coming out, and it's not erupting. What a bunch of baloney. Yeah, baloney. Yes, they're building bunkers under the ground. They got 170 bunkers under the ground just here in the United States, preparing for some kind of near extinction level. Is it Yellowstone? I don't know. Is it an asteroid coming from outer space? I don't know. They wouldn't tell us. So who came up with this cockamamie idea to tell you people that there is a cap holding Yellowstone down from being erupting, excuse me. Here using Google Earth, this is the location for the monitor for Holmes Hill. This is the Madison River area. I've talked about that. This is where the unzipping originally started. I'm showing you Holmes Hill because I'm going to show you the monitor for Holmes Hill. Here we have Earthquake Lake, Hedgen Lake. And this here shows the heat that's coming up. Yeah, the pockets of melt. Yeah, so I'll just jump around here. Look how red that is. And I already showed you what it was looking like when I pulled the files. Alright, let's look at some of these smaller earthquakes. We got one there, and another one there, and another one there. Maybe you're new to the channel, and you don't remember when they closed down parts of the road and pathways because the heat coming up under the ground from the magma, so hot that it was actually melting people's shoes. This discoloration here on one of the trails is caused by that heat from that magma. This here is an image of a parking lot that they had a fence off because of a new thermal venting that started. Taking some readings of the walkway. Remember Fen Lake, I believe it was? Turn Lake. Okay, that's where the satellite images found all the dead trees and the sulfur deposits. And they discovered that the trees had died from the ground up, fell over, and then the heat of the ground actually turned the trees to charcoal. Yeah, so here's one article about it. And the images of the dead trees, and then the thermal image of the heat that was coming from the ground. I'll give you a link to this. Now, this happened when? 2022. Here's that area on Google Earth, and I'll bring it out. Yeah, they don't want you to remember all that. Yeah, that's the location right there. Yeah, I wonder what it looks like now, because this image on Google Earth is from 9/11/2015. Like I said, there's been 40 smaller eruptions since its last major eruption. The one there at Pitchstone Plateau was only about 70,000 years ago, and then along the Snake River Plateau, there's been eruptions there, which were only about 2,000 years ago. But there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to prepare for. So what are your thoughts? Put your comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. I want to give out a shout out to Tina. Yeah, I don't get down to my post office box very often, but I want to say thank you very much for your very generous donations. And to all of you that have bought me cups of coffee or sent in donations to PayPal, yeah, God bless all of you. I don't have sponsors. Most YouTubers have sponsors where they sell their products and things like that, but I don't do that. I'm not going to sell out to some corporation to sell their products. So, yeah. All I get is from views on YouTube for their different ads. That's it. And YouTube's been censoring me, limiting the amount of notices that go out. I got an email yesterday from a fellow who said he was unsubscribed once again, and he's not going to bother resubscribing. I can understand that. It's frustrating. But he does check my channel quite often. So thank you, and God bless you guys. Put your thoughts down below about all this. Yeah, the cap holding down an eruption. Please stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.